Hey everyone, and welcome to Cozying Up with a Clear Cut, where we get up close and personal with women that inspire us. Today, I'm so excited to be sitting down with Pat Dambe. She talks all about her experience as a Botswanian woman, working at De Beers, and even living on a diamond mine. This is a special peek into how ethically sourced diamonds give back to local communities and how important diamonds are to Botswana. Take a listen. Hey everyone, and welcome to Cozying Up with a Clear Cut, where we get up close and personal with women that inspire us. Today we're sitting down with Pat Dambe. She is the VP of Market Outreach for De Beers Group. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's so great to be here.
I'm so excited. So Pat and I met last year in Botswana. We were there for the Forbes 30 Under 30 conference, and she was so inspiring. I learned so much about Botswana and natural diamonds, and I just kind of want to hear a little bit and learn about your background, your career, and how you got to where you are today.
Great. So, first of all, it's really good to be here. It's lovely to be in your studio. You have incredible offices.
Thank you.
I wish everybody could see what you're doing, because this is really what the future's all about. Speaking about myself, I come from diamond country. I always say to people, the amazing thing about Botswana diamonds is what it's done for our country, you know. We were a cattle country. We were like one street. When I was little, we only had 6 miles of road. And as a result of discovering diamonds about 2 years after independence and where we are today, we've got over 6,000 miles of road.
Wow.
Really nice highway, a very nice bridge. I always talk about our bridge because it looks like our San Francisco bridge. But the point is that what diamonds have done have allowed for a country that had nothing to become a medium-sized economy. And a lot of us went to school as a result of diamonds. We got scholarships to go to school for free education, housing, and the opportunity to travel around the world and see what the world offered and bring a lot of that back home to Botswana. So I got a scholarship to go to school through De Beers and the Botswana government, and went to university in Canada.
Nice.
Freezing.
Definitely colder than Botswana.
But a great place to learn and really learn about what it means to be in a medium or high-end society and the opportunities. And the other great thing about going to with a scholarship to Canada was you got to come back home, and you came back home and you had a job immediately. You weren't out without a job. You were positioned in a management position on the mine. So when I was talking to my Canadian American friends, they're going, geez, I've got to deal with a school loan. I've got to find a job. I need to put a CV together. I'm going, I have a job waiting for me when I go back home.
So your first job was at the diamond mine?
The diamond mine. It was actually what we call the Prince of Mines, which is Jwaneng. I'm sure you've heard of Jwaneng. It's in terms of value, this is where most of the diamonds come from in Botswana.
So what is it like to work on a diamond mine? Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions around it.
Well, first of all, it's like this little oasis, right? So it has infrastructure, proper housing, hospital. In fact, my son was actually born in the private hospital in Jwaneng. And it really is a middle-class existence where everyone who lives and works on the mine, there's a future for everyone who works there. But the amazing thing about the mine is the support that they give around the villages that are around the mine. So that means that they get free healthcare, free access to education from the mine as a result of being the village that surrounds the mine.
Wow.
So it has a ripple effect, a positive ripple effect as a result of that.
Wow. So how long were you there, and what was your next career move?
Yeah, that's the other amazing thing about working. I mean, people don't realize that there's an opportunity to succession plan your life, your career life. So you start as a lower middle management person, and you're allowed to develop, do as many courses as you want within your field or beyond your field, and go into the other areas of aspiration and inspiration for yourself. So I moved from what I was doing, which was in human resources, and moved into government relations. So I moved from De Beers as it was and moved into Anglo-American, which was the head office for De Beers in Botswana. And then I left the system altogether. For many years, I was in media, worked with Coca-Cola as head of corporate affairs in South Africa, as well as Foot Cone and Belding, which is a big advertising firm, which is listed on the U.S. Stock Exchange under a holding company. And got headhunted soon after Coca-Cola to come back home when De Beers and the Botswana government decided to set up the sales center for selling diamonds in Botswana. So in terms of the exposure that I'd gotten and the education I had and the opportunity to do different courses and development, I was able to go into different areas. I am not an exception in Botswana. I think that there are many of us who have gone through the path that I've gone through. A fantastic base, of getting free education, living a middle-class existence, going to school overseas, whether it was in Canada, the United States, Europe, and then everybody wanting to come home. That was the amazing thing was, we would be with other foreign students who'd be like, I don't want to go back home. And we couldn't wait to go back home and make a difference. And a lot of us who are as old as I am are in leadership positions, including our president, who was in my class and is now the president of Botswana. So, it's almost like people talk about the American dream. That was the Botswana dream, was to be able to go to school, get a scholarship, go to school, and go back home and make a difference and start your own future and career.
And I think that that's incredible. And it was really eye-opening when we were in Botswana, because I'd always, we only work with natural, and it's always been really important to us, the ethical mining aspect. Kyle, my husband and co-founder, he previously founded like a fair trade mine in West Africa, and he saw, even small impacts that mining could make to local communities. But when we got to Botswana, I didn't know what to expect. And it was like, everything was so modern, everything was so built up, everyone had free education and talked about that. And it was, so eye-opening. And I was like, how come people don't know about this? Like, why are there so many misconceptions around natural diamonds, mining diamonds, De Beers in general? So what do diamonds mean to the people of Botswana?
So, they're the most precious thing for us, because without it, I don't think we'd be having the same conversation. And I wish that the world would understand that diamonds for a country like Botswana, and we're not alone, whether it's in Namibia, also in South Africa, and for a community in Canada where we mine, changes lives. It means that people can have hope, are able to develop themselves, be a community of substance and pride, and create new diamonds. And really, for me as a Motswana, I always think about the future. I know that, I won't be a De Beers forever, but I know that I will always play a role in terms of where Botswana is going. And for me, to be able to say that there's a company like De Beers that's come into Botswana and is playing its role as a corporate citizen, because it is about becoming a citizen and realizing what's important to the country. Like any other country, we just want to be able to live peacefully, live successfully, be profitable, and look at diversification. And that's really the next step within Botswana. And as a result of diamonds, as a result of the partnership with De Beers and other companies, we're able to look at diversification. So I always think of Botswana as, like the Dubai of Africa, because there was nothing. It was desert. Never judge a book by its cover, right? Because you never know what's in the book. And as a result of finding them and proper governance, because it is also about that partnership between the Botswana government and De Beers in terms of what the future of the country can look like, and the roles that the founders of the government played, and the role that De Beers continues to play as a corporate citizen is so important to the success of what's happened at home.
And I thought, when we were in Botswana, we got the opportunity to go to the De Beers headquarters there. And I learned so much too. Like, I had no idea that the government of Botswana owns 15% of De Beers, and that their mining partnership, Botswana, is a 50-50 partnership. So I think a lot of young people here think that De Beers is exploiting people, exploiting countries, and it's really a joint partnership, and most of the profits go back and directly help the people and help the community.
So I think history always sticks, right? So I think people know the history of De Beers, but the present De Beers is a totally different corporation. And as you rightfully say, as a Botswana, we have ownership in the country, in the company. Who would have thought, right? So if you have African ownership as we know it, it means that things have had to change. And De Beers, the leadership within De Beers is very focused on making sure that we are corporatized, and what does that mean in terms of best practice, ethics, making sure that we have purpose and impact in the partnerships that we have with our country partners. So, I know that some people think, oh yes, I know what De Beers used to do. But do you really know what De Beers is doing? And take the time, and I'm not going to give you the corporate speak.
Right.
But if you ever get the chance to just go on the website and just take one thing that you're into. Is it environment? Is it people? Is it, economic impact? Whatever it may be. Is it about gender? Is it about diversity? And check it out and see if what you thought and what it is there, because I think you'll be surprised to see what you find out as De Beers is now. That being said, I think it's also about the partnership. We have a saying as Botswana. Our voice is very important to us. That's why democracy works in Botswana. And I think that if De Beers wasn't the De Beers that it is today, as a shareholder, something would have been said. So I think that balance and where it is now is a totally different perception of what it used to be. But that also being said, if it hadn't been for De Beers, I don't think Botswana would be where it is today.
Hey everyone, Olivia here. Hope you're enjoying our episode. Our Clear Cut collection features fine jewelry pieces inspired and designed with you in mind. Our collection is ever-changing, and each piece is handmade and made to order here in New York City. Don't forget to check it out and use the code COZY, C-O-Z-Y, for free shipping on any purchase.
So why do you think some of these misconceptions around natural diamonds have stuck around?
Well, I think part of it is just negative stories always stick. I mean, we all know the story around the blood diamonds. And, when people think of blood diamonds, we all think of, oh yeah, I remember that movie, right? So, and we need to tell more positive stories. And sometimes I think people they hold on to the negativity instead of saying, could it really change? And so it's easier to believe something negative than to believe something positive and think could that really be true? And what I always say to people is, like you did, come and see it for yourself. First of all, I think going to Africa on holiday is an incredible holiday if you're into animals and conservation.
I mean, I've never seen so many elephants in my life, and it was the most incredible experience ever.
And that's the thing about Botswana. As a result of its stability, people always ask, why there's so many elephants in Botswana? Well, we have to go back a few years and realize that independence for many countries surrounding Botswana is recent. So there was war in Angola, war in Mozambique, war in Zimbabwe, and apartheid, fighting apartheid in South Africa. So, you know, animals go where it's safe, right? And elephants have a very long memory. So Botswana was a peaceful environment. So the president always talks about the refugees of Botswana are the elephants. So we have elephants from all these different countries surrounding Botswana. And because they have a long memory, they're not going back because they don't know what they're going back to. So we have over 250,000 elephants in Botswana. It's a lot of elephants.
Yeah.
In a country of the size of Texas.
Wouldn't they say there's more elephants than people?
Oh, yeah. You feel that when you're in one of the game reserves and you're surrounded by, and remember the African elephants are bigger than the Indian elephants.
Oh, they're huge.
They're huge. You feel small and you feel a little, because they're wild, right? And there's nothing worse than a mother with its child. You know, as a human being, a mother with its child is very protective. Now imagine this massive elephant looking at a truck full of humans and wondering, are these good humans or bad humans? So it can go one way or the other.
So it's actually nowadays, I think, pretty rare that you only work with natural diamonds because of the rise of lab-grown diamonds. And people are led to believe that if they're buying a lab-grown diamond, they're actually doing the more ethical, more sustainable thing by not purchasing a natural. So as a native Botswanian, someone who grew up around natural diamonds and mining, what would you say to someone who is considering purchasing a lab-grown diamond?
So first of all, I think there's nothing wrong in purchasing a lab-grown, you know, but think about the magic and the rareness of purchasing something that's no less than 1 billion years old to demonstrate love. I mean, I can't imagine anything more romantic than that. Secondly, if someone was proposing to me and saying, okay, we're going to buy a lab grown instead of, without doing the homework, I think what's really important with something that's rare or something that you purchase that's expensive, do the homework. I mean, we do it with clothes, we do it with coffee. You know, now people have become all these specialists in coffee and teas.
Yes.
And you know where the tea comes from, how it was made, how it was packaged, et cetera, et cetera. Do the same thing with your diamond. And if you're not getting that information, that should be, wait a minute, I'm not getting enough to say, one, I'm buying it at this price, and two, I know that it is ethically sourced. You can do that with our diamonds. I'm not saying just ours alone, but you can do that with the industry as a whole. You have every right and should be extremely discerning so that when you do purchase it, you think about someone like myself. And if not someone like myself, the woman in the village who depends on the stability, and her children depend on the stability of a country like Botswana. And what a beautiful idea that you're not only buying something that is rare, that is, you know, made by nature, years and years, millions of years, billions of years of nature. That's one side. But knowing that you're making a difference in a community, knowing that you're making a difference. When we talked about those elephants, you know, it's really interesting in Botswana. The reason why conservation works in Botswana is because we're stable. If we weren't stable, then you would have problems with things like poaching, et cetera, that you see in other developing countries. But because of the stability, we're able to invest in conservation. We're able to invest in the communities to say, help us protect the way it needs to be protected. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have that stability, then what? Mm-hmm. You know, everybody has to eat. Everybody has to be protected. So thank God we've got diamonds. So when you buy that diamond, ask the questions. Where is it from? How is it mined? If you're not getting those answers, and if the person doesn't know how to answer, then you have a choice to investigate it yourself and say, these are the only ones I want, and I want proof of that they're you know, De Beers diamonds or anybody else's diamonds. That
and alternatively, if you're getting a lab grown, you should know where that was made as well. Okay. And what that's doing to the environment.
I don't speak to lab grown, so I'll let you talk.
Well, because I think there needs to be more of like what you're saying, like the story that's told about how diamonds really do good for communities, for people, because there has been that narrative that they're unethical. The most sustainable thing is to get something that should be created in the earth over billions of years over a couple of days in a laboratory. Yeah. Mostly in China. Yeah. You know, is that sustainable, or are we greenwashing that aspect too?
I agree.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say congratulations to the Clear Cut for being the purest. You are amazing. A lot of heat. Yeah, I bet you get a lot of heat, but at the same time, I think you have such an incredible following because you're honest and very clear about why you're doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I wish more people would listen to your story, because sometimes when it comes from us, I mean, we live it every single day and you see both sides.
And as someone, like, I grew up in the industry because my family's always been in it, and I didn't know all of this before I went to Botswana and met you, you know? Even though Kyle had worked in mining, like, we knew that ethical mining was important and that it did good, but to see it for yourself is a totally different thing. It's to be so like, true. Wow.
It's so true.
And meet locals that started businesses, got educations, you know? It's like, we don't have that here in the US.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, it's more people need to hear about it. And people always ask, why haven't you told the story? And part of it has been, in the old days, 30 years ago, we used to say, Botswana is Africa's secret, because, and I think we did that because we were the haven of peace. So we were, we had United Nations refugee camps for South Africans going into exile, Mozambicans, Namibians, it used to be called Southwest Africa, Angolans. Mm-hmm. So we were like, and Zimbabwe was also at war. So we were the hub of security. And so we kind of dealt with social impact, again, as a result of diamonds. Mm-hmm. That's what people don't understand, because there was nowhere for people to go, right? Other than, like, I think you're seeing a little bit here with what's happening with the instability in South America. People look for peace. And Botswana was that little haven as a result of diamonds. Not because we were wealthy, but because the government took the revenue from the diamonds and created stability. We didn't even have an army. We had a defense force. And the defense force was not to fight against other countries. It was to protect the people inside the country. And so when people talk about the negativity about diamonds, I said, do you really know what you're saying? Because if it hadn't been for diamonds, you know, I think of someone like, there's so many people. Nelson Mandela came through Botswana during the period. There's a wonderful story about him coming through and getting protection in Botswana before he went on. There's so many historical freedom fighters who used Botswana as a safe haven before they went on to other passages. So the history of Botswana and diamonds is not just emotional. It has, thank God we had it, because I don't know if we'd be having this conversation about anything, about conservation, about people, about stability in the region, you know, if it hadn't been as a result of diamonds being in Botswana.
And what do you think is the future of diamonds?
So I think people need to understand that if you haven't bought one, buy one.
People think that De Beers is holding them all in a vault and not releasing them. Like, literally, someone told me that the other day.
Oh, my goodness.
Which is
not
the case.
You know, I can tell you there is no stockpile of diamonds at De Beers. It is becoming more expensive to mine them. The wonderful thing is technology is getting much more sophisticated. So some of the big rocks, they're no longer stones. Some of the rocks that have been found are just amazing as a result of technology in an open pit. This is not digging deep down. This is just in an open pit, which is amazing. And so, but I do say to everyone who hasn't bought one, I would really buy one, because this is going to be more and more rare. And that means that, you know, it's all going to be about the DNA of a real, authentic, you know, universe God-made diamond that will have its value. And so if you haven't bought one, buy one,
because it's going to be expensive.
It is going to get more and more expensive. And, you know, I always tell my friends who say, I can't afford to buy a diamond. I said, you don't have to buy a 1 carat, you know, buy a 0.26 point, anything, buy something and slowly build your collection. But then you have something of, one, of the inheritance of your country, and 2, that you can pass on to the next generation. So when people say, you know, the future is lab grown, I'm going, yes, that may be true, but thank goodness I've been able to purchase a few. And I say to everyone, if you can just purchase the one, just buy one, then you have something that's going to be rare.
Yeah, and I think that as technology for lab grown gets better, and as natural diamonds get rarer and rarer, I think, you know, 2 of the largest mines shut down in the past couple of years, like one in Australia and one in Canada. It's just going to be cheaper and cheaper on one end and more expensive on the other end. And they're just going to be different categories.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I can't speak as from a qualified position, but I can say that what I do know is that anything that's rare becomes expensive.
Yes.
And I mean, I think about my daughter who was 4 years ago, she's saying, Mom, I'm only going to wear vintage. And vintage was relatively cheap, right? And now
everyone wants vintage.
It's so expensive. So, you know, and it's all about how old is it? Who made it? When did you buy it? When was it made? And I think the same will be true of natural.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Pat. This was really eye-opening, and we need to share this story more and more. So I'm glad we could get it firsthand from you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to going back to Botswana soon.
Please.
And everyone needs to go.
You have to. And I do want to say one thing to you, Olivia. I think the best thing was to hear you talk about diamonds in a natural environment when we were in Chobe. And we were all looking outside. We were looking at the river. And I think it was Kyle who said, look at the sunset on the water. Was it? I think it was Kyle who said that. And that's what I remember about you, how you guys were just naturalists. That's what you focused on. So it's really good to be here.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks so much. Wow, what an inspirational conversation that was with Pat. It's so amazing to hear her experience firsthand, since there's so much misconception around diamond mining in Africa. Botswana is an amazing country. I can't wait to go back, and I hope you guys visit too.